Hey gamers, welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a different type of video. It's going to be on the brief side, it'll be a little bit shorter, and I'm just going to be covering the patch 5.3.0 changes in regard to Trapper. Uh, Today is October 19th, and the patch dropped earlier today, and so far I am totally loving it. The change to his power is that you can now enter the trial with two traps, as well as carry two traps as a base kit. You don't need an add-on, whereas before it would always take up an add-on slot. Otherwise, you can only carry around one trap, and that just feels really bad. So now you kind of open up more build options. You can use two add-ons that actually make sense in the build that you're working towards. Um, so that's amazing. I love that. They also made a guaranteed change of having six traps on the map every single time, as opposed to being random between four and six traps. So it takes away an aspect of RNG, makes it every match is roughly the same, depending on the map, obviously, and it just feels much better. It's something that should have been in the game from the beginning, but I guess I'm just happy that it's in the game right now. So moving on to the add-ons, we're going to start with the Trapper Gloves. And this did not change. It increases bear trap setting speed by 30%. And as a brown, I think this is the best brown, kind of by far. It's the only one that's not really gimmicky, and it's just always going to give you value, especially mid chase, when you need to set a trap down quickly and continue on your chase to either block off a pallet, a window, something like that. We have padded jaws. I'm not even going to give these the time of day. They are completely useless and should never be used. Makeshift wrap. This is totally new, and the trapper can no longer be caught in his own bear traps, and they will instead be disarmed when he steps onto them. And I think this is good for beginners. I think it is good for an add on that I'm going to be showing in the future, a little bit down the line. And I will come back to this. But aside from that, I don't see a ton of use with it. After that, we have bear oil. This is also new. Setting a bear trap is silent, whereas before the survivor would hear you and see you bend down and then make the trap noise. Whereas this is totally silent. So at the beginning of the trial, when nobody is around, this gives you no value. But I think where it does give you value is if you have a survivor that is tightly sticking on one loop and you can't do anything about it, go to a point in the loop where there is a tall structure that is completely blocking you, and you can set a trap, I think, in combination with something like the Trapper Gloves, where you have increased setting speed. And it's going to give the impression um, that you're trying to mind game. So the survivor, hopefully, they don't just go the other direction and leave the loop, and they continue looping because in their head they're thinking, "I'm going to hear him trap," um, and maybe you can get some kind of mind gamey uh, clutch use with this on a loop. Um, I don't know. I haven't tested it personally, but I think in theory that would be its use. Decent. Wax brick increases the time it takes for the rescue to happen, so it makes them stay in the trap a little bit longer. Um, I don't think this was used to be a green, but now it's a yellow because they swapped some stuff around. I think the value is still the same. I'm not positive, but I think this is a good filler add-on. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. Decent. Serrated jaws. This just makes it so survivors have hemorrhage when they get injured by a bear trap, and anything to do with hemorrhage, I hate. It's terrible. Um, Lengthened jaws. Okay, so this is similar to the Legion's power. So if the Legion activates his power and hits you, you're going to get that bar underneath your portrait, and when the bar hits zero, you go into the dying state unless you mend yourself, which is separate from healing. Um, this makes it so if they get out of a bear trap, that they have that bar. It's going to save you a little bit of time just throughout the match, a little bit of time. I'm not sure exactly how long it lasts. It doesn't look like it says either. But regardless, it'll buy you some time. I think it's especially good at defending objectives where you need to disarm the trap in order to interact with the objective. such as totems or exit gates. Um, if you step onto the trap, you have to take the extra time. You can't just like do the totem or do the exit gate without mending yourself because you'll go down. Um, so it's going to buy you a little bit more time. If they disarm the trap, nothing happens. You don't get the deep wound. That's it. So I'm happy they put it in. I think it's better than not having it, but it's not incredible. A decent one. Coffee grinds. This is potentially my favorite. I don't know if it's the strongest, but I think as of now it's my favorite. You gain haste after setting a bear trap, boosting the movement speed by 5%. So, in combination with a trap setting speed, such as trapper gloves, you use this when a survivor is looping you. So, let's say you know that a survivor is going to drop pallet on you. You do the pre trap, where you begin putting the trap down before they throw pallet. And while they're stuck in the animation of dropping the pallet, you're taking that valuable time and putting yourself in an animation, blocking the pallet from being used. And it also gives you 5% increased move speed after doing so. So, unless they go W key in the other direction and leave the loop that you are currently working with, um, and even in that case, you still have the extra move speed to get to them. I was going to say you continue looping, and that extra 5% is going to get you a hit or a down. Um, and it also takes away from the pallet because you pre-dropped the. Oh, it's just so good. It just feels really good. So this is one of my favorites by far. Big value with this. Four coil spring kit. This just decreases the bear trap disarm time by 25%. Good for defending objectives like totems, exit gates, things that need to be disarmed in order for the survivor to do what they're trying to do. Trapper bag. So this is the old purple trapper bag. So you can come into the trial with 3 traps. You can carry 3 traps at a time, and I think it's good, but it's not needed, especially with base kit being 2 and 2. But who knows? Maybe you like using it. I don't think it's bad. I just think there are probably better options. Tar bottle, totally the same. You use this to hide traps a little bit better in bushes, or just makes them a little bit darker. They're harder to see. Decent. Secondary coil. This is the same as the one above, the force piece, but it's double the disarm time, so it's 50%. Great at defending objectives. Rusted Jaws. This is one that I've used a lot in the past, and I think is especially useful when survivors come in with like 3 or 4 medkits, or with the new boon totem from Michaela, where she blesses a totem and then you can heal yourself, and you get 100% increased healing rate, which is mind-boggling at that past through PTB. But Mangled is something that gives you, it makes the survivor spend an extra 25% time healing themselves or the person that they're healing if that person has mangled. So it slows the game down. Even when they don't have a bunch of medkits, it's still just going to slow the game down. So overall, really strong. Fascinating tools. This combined with the coffee grinds for the haste is I think one of his strongest, reliable, non-gimmicky add-on combinations. It makes it harder to escape traps, as well as the trap setting speed is increased by 50%. That's nuts. It's so fast, it's like lightning speed. This with the haste buff, you want to be laying down traps left and right. You almost lose no time by doing so with the haste, in addition to the increased time or the decreased time to set it down. You're just getting so much value by placing down traps. It makes his power feel very fluid, very strong. Not like, oh, I don't have time to trap because I have all of these survivors doing this thing, which happens quite often. Like you just become Mr. Machete Man because you don't even have time to set your traps and stuff like that. And this, especially with coffee grinds, totally makes up for it. Um, one of the strongest, one of my favorites, I think. Trapper Sack. So this is new. Um, all bear traps are carried at the start. There are none on the map. You have 8 to start with, and those 8 are it. That's it. Um, when you set a trap down, you can't pick it up, but you can reset it. So this is I've seen a lot of YouTubers bring this and they'll trap Shack if it has basement in it or just any basement in general, and they completely lock it down. And it can be good, especially when you're doing a survive with friends. So if they all know each other, the chances of them saving each other are a lot higher, as opposed to you just getting one person in the basement and the other three just doing jets, and then they all escape. Um, I don't think it's necessarily a strong add-on. It's not weak, but it's not strong. But it can be good depending on who you're going against. I haven't used it myself yet, but I have seen it in action, and you can kind of do some things you couldn't do before, such as really lock down certain areas. Um, and going back to what was it? Makeshift wrap. So this I think is going to pair really well with that add-on, because if you're locking down something like Shack with basement inside, and you, there's so many traps that at some point you just need to walk through one of your own traps, and it will disarm, sure, but it also makes it so you can get in and out of the area that you're defending a little bit easier. So I think those two go together well, but sort of gimmicky. You're not always going to get good value with that, as opposed to something like the setting speed with the haste, something along those lines. But I'm interested to see how it works out. Tension spring. So this automatically resets a bear trap after a survivor escaped from it. That doesn't include disarming. So if they were to disarm it, and let's say you trapped a totem and they start doing the totem, it won't reset itself 2 seconds after because they disarmed it. However, if they step into it and then they continue doing the totem, the bear trap is going to snap on them again. It'll reset and then it'll snap on them if they stay in place. And I think this is going to be good for totem builds or something to do with the exit gates. So maybe a Freddy perk where you increase the time it takes for them to open exit gates, or if you have a bunch of hex totems, you can put traps in front of the totems or the exit gates and kind of hope that they run into it. And then they'll get trapped again, so it's going to give you even more time to get to the objective that they're trying to take advantage of. Um, I don't think it's amazing. I think if it reset even after disarming, it would be unbelievably strong, uh, borderline overpowered or broken. But it has its uses, and it has its uses. I think especially as more time goes by, too, it's going to be a sort of mind gamey aspect of, does the trapper bring tension spring here? Am I safe to commit to this totem even though I just walked into his trap? And something like that. So we'll see how it plays out. Oily coil. This is totally changed. It's not new, but they changed the description of it right here. So when setting a bear trap, the aura of the survivor who disarmed it is revealed for 5 seconds. And I think this is one of the strongest changes. I haven't used it yet myself, but in a situation where you have a couple traps set and somebody sees you set those traps, they chances are they're going to stay in that area. They're going to disarm the trap, and then they're going to stay in that area. They're going to do the generator in that area, or something along those lines, right? So you come back, you reset the trap, and then you will see the aura of them hiding over behind a tree or something like that, waiting for you to leave so that they can again redisarm the trap. I think it's going to be especially good in those situations where you're having a hard time finding people, but they're disarming your traps pretty often. It's also just free information. If they disarm it and 2 minutes go by and then you come back, you reset it, and they're across the map, you still see their aura and see what they're doing. So if they're healing somebody, you know that two people are there. If they're doing a generator, you know that they're doing a generator. If they're just running, you can kind of assume why would they be running from where they were to where they're going. And if they're running towards a hook, you know that they're going for a hook save. Um, so it's just free information. It's almost as if it's as strong as a perk. We'll see how it plays out. I think it's going to be one of the strongest, though, kind of by far. Um, Next we have Honing Stone. This is totally the same. If a survivor walks into a trap and then frees themselves and are not freed by a teammate, they go into the dying state. And I can think of two situations off the top of my head where this has won me a game, where in most situations to really take advantage of this and have it be the turning point of a game, you need to know where everybody is. So you need to bring information perks. And let's say you have two people on the ground, you're chasing another person, and then the last person, the fourth person, walks into a trap. You know that he's going to free himself because you're chasing the only other person on the map, and you know that he's going to be in the dying state. So you can continue on your chase with the person you're chasing, and if you get them, then you win the game. Aside from Unbreakable, Decisive Strike, something like that. Um, and it's good for if you have a bunch of totems that are spread out, or if it's a 1v1 in the endgame collapse. Um, if they step in the trap, then they lose. They lose. If they disarm it, nothing happens. But this can, I think, less often than not, be a game winner. But when it does happen, it makes a huge impact. So it's interesting. This is the same, and it's totally useless. Um, every 30 seconds, a bear trap is automatically reset, and it's not as good as it sounds. Because let's say somebody walks into a trap at an exit gate, they start pulling the lever, they're not going to fall because of the way it's coded. They're not going to fall into that 30-second window um, before the 30 seconds is up. So let's say somebody walks into that trap. It pre-chose which trap is going to be reset at the beginning of the 30 seconds. So if you walk into that trap within the 30-second window, it's still going to do one of the traps that weren't already set. It's not going to reset the trap like something like the tension spring would. It's hard to explain, but the way that they coded it, it's just not good. I think maybe somebody will somehow find some use with it somewhere, but no thanks. I'm good. It's not great. Bloody Coil is the same. When a survivor disarms a trap, they get injured. If they are already injured and they disarm a trap, nothing happens because they're already injured. It also decreases bear trap disarm speed. So this one is, I think, especially with if you're building this with certain perks in mind, you can do a really good like lockdown, totem build, exit gates, something where they need to disarm it in order to interact with the objective that you're defending. And I think that about covers it as far as Trapper. The power changes, so you can come in with two. You can walk around with two traps. Oh, I forgot to mention, behavior also made it so they took out the slightly, considerably, moderately, tremendously, the very vague words that they use to describe their perks and what they do with numbers. So it's a nice, you just know now. That's so much better. I'd so much rather that. I'm going to link the full patch notes in the description. Brief overview of what else changed was they added Michaela, new survivor. She can bless totems, which I'm not really a fan of so far. It's a little frustrating, but the next game that I'm about to upload, I actually take advantage of that situation because I knew where the blessed totem was, so I knew that they would go and gather around that totem, go heal up, and that's just information for me. Um, so once you start to get more familiar with it, it's not as terrible as it seems because I think a lot of people are leaning towards it being very overpowered. We'll see. Plague got buffed, Deathslinger got nerfed, and a good considerable amount of killers got some add-on changes, a couple tweaks here and there. But overall, I am extremely happy with this patch. I think it was one of the best that they've ever done. And yeah, let me know what you guys think about the changes. I think Trapper, he might still be in the lowest tier of killers, but he's not the bottom of the lowest tier anymore. I feel like overall he's very smooth, fluid. He just feels much better. So let me know what you guys think, and thank you for watching.